Nexus Station 7 floated in the darkness of space like a spinning wheel of light. It orbited a massive gas giant, a planet so big that storms larger than whole worlds raged across its surface. The station was home to thousands of aliens from dozens of different species. They came here to trade, to work, to live, and sometimes just to pass through on their way to somewhere else. The commercial promenade was the heart of the station. It stretched for nearly a kilometer, lined with shops and food stalls and entertainment venues. Lights of every color flickered and glowed. Strange smells mixed in the recycled air. The sounds of 100 different languages created a constant hum of noise that never stopped, day or night. Sat alone on a metal bench near a fountain that sprayed water in patterns that shifted with the music playing from hidden speakers. She was small, even for her species. They were not a large people to begin with. They stood barely a meter tall when fully grown, with soft bodies covered in fine fur that could glow with bioluminescent light. Their faces were round and gentle, with large dark eyes and antennae that moved with their emotions. They looked something like the moths of a distant planet called Earth, though had never heard of such a place. She was 7 cycles old. Her fur was pale lavender, and when she was happy it glowed with soft pink and gold lights. Right now she was not happy. She was bored and a little bit scared. Her parent, Merchant Singer, had left her here with strict instructions to stay on this bench and not move, had important business to conduct with traders from the outer systems. The negotiations could take hours. Understood, she was a good child, she would wait. To pass the time, she held her most treasured possession in her small, clawed hands. It was a music box made of crystal, no bigger than her fist. The crystal was pale blue, shot through with veins of silver that caught the light and scattered it into tiny rainbows. When she pressed the small button on its base, the crystal would glow from within, and the most beautiful sound would emerge. It was her grandmother's voice. Grandmother's song had recorded her favorite lullaby into the crystal before she died 3 cycles ago. It was the only thing had left of her. The music box was handmade, crafted by her grandmother's own hands using techniques passed down through 17 generations of their family. It could not be replaced. It could not be. It was unique in all the universe. Pressed the button and closed her eyes as her grandmother's voice filled her ears. The lullaby was soft and sweet, a song about stars that watched over sleeping children and kept them safe from the darkness between worlds. She did not notice the 3 figures approaching until a shadow fell over her. They were tall, nearly 2 meters each, with bodies built for speed and violence. They looked something like the hyenas of that same distant Earth, if hyenas walked upright and wore clothes and spoke in harsh, barking voices. Their fur was spotted brown and black. Their eyes were yellow and hungry. Their mouths were full of teeth meant for tearing. These 3 were young, not yet fully grown, but they were still much bigger than. They were also bored and looking for entertainment. The largest of them, a male with a scar across his muzzle, spotted the glowing crystal in his hands first. His ears perked forward with interest. "What do we have here?" he said, his voice a rough growl, "a little all alone." His 2 companions laughed. The sound was not pleasant. His antennae flattened against her head in fear. Her bioluminescence flickered and dimmed. She clutched the music box to her chest. "Please," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "I am just waiting for my parent." "Just waiting," they repeated, mocking her soft, chirping accent. "Hear that? The prey thing is just waiting." More laughter. One of them, a female with notched ears, leaned in close. Her breath smelled like meat. "What's that pretty thing you're holding? Let us see it." "No," said, "please. It was my grandmother's. Please do not touch it." The moved faster than could react. His clawed hand shot out and snatched the music box from her grip. She cried out in shock and pain as one of his claws scratched her palm. "Give it back," she pleaded, reaching for it. "Please, please give it back." But there was already examining his prize, turning it over in his hands. He pressed the button and the lullaby began to play. For a moment he listened. Then he laughed. What is this garbage? It sounds like a dying animal. He tossed the music box to the female, who caught it easily, ran toward her, but the third, a younger male with pale spots, blocked her path with his body. He shoved her, and she fell hard onto the metal floor. "Give it back," she sobbed. Her bioluminescence was flickering wildly now, distress signals that her species could not control. "Please, it is all I have of her, please." The three tossed the music box between themselves, keeping it always just out of reach. They laughed at her tears, at her desperate lunges, at the way her lights flickered like a broken sign. Other aliens on the promenade noticed what was happening. A merchant with blue skin and 4 arms looked up from her stall. A pair of traders, tall and thin like walking sticks, paused in their conversation. A family of small and furry and harmless hurried their children away with frightened glances. No one helped. They were from the Dominion Coalition, one of the most powerful trading blocs in this sector. Their species had a reputation for violence and a tendency to hold grudges. They, on the other hand, were nobody. They were artists and craftsmen, peaceful to the point of helplessness. They had no fleet, no warriors, no political power. This was simply how the galaxy worked. The strong did what they wanted. The weak suffered what they must. Everyone knew this. Everyone accepted it. They caught the music box one final time. He looked at who was on her knees now, her small body shaking with sobs, her lights dim and flickering. "I'm bored now," he said. He dropped the music box onto the hard metal floor, and then, very deliberately, he brought his foot down on top of it. The crystal shattered with a sound like breaking ice. Fragments scattered across the floor, catching the light one last time. The lullaby warbled, distorted, and died mid-note. Grandmother's voice was gone forever. Screamed. It was not a loud sound. Her species was not capable of loud sounds, but it was a sound of such pure grief and loss that even they stopped laughing for a moment. Just a moment, then they laughed again. At a food stall 30 meters away, a human named set down his coffee. He had been watching the scene unfold from the beginning. His face showed no expression, but his jaw was tight and his hands had curled into fists. He stood up and began to walk toward the group. Was not a remarkable man by any standard. He was 38 years old, of medium height and medium build. His skin was brown from years of working on ships with poor radiation shielding. His hair was black, cut short for practicality, and there were streaks of gray at his temples that made him look older than he was. He wore the simple clothes of a cargo hauler, durable fabric in dull colors, stained with the marks of honest work. He had been at this station for 3 days, waiting for his ship to be loaded with goods bound for the Terran colonies in the outer reach. It was boring work, the waiting. So he had come to the promenade to drink coffee and watch the aliens go about their business. Humans were still fairly new to the galactic community and still found other species interesting to observe. He had not expected to observe anything like this. As he walked toward the group of other aliens moved out of his way. They did this without thinking about it, stepping aside as he passed. There was something in the way humans moved that made other species uncomfortable. It was hard to explain. Humans did not look dangerous. They had no claws, no fangs, no armor, no venom. They were soft and slow and weak compared to most species in the galaxy. But there was something in their eyes, something in the way they walked, a steadiness, a focus. It triggered old instincts in the primitive parts of alien brains, instincts that whispered warnings about predators. The merchant watched him pass and felt a chill run down her spine. She did not know why. Stopped 3 meters from the small alien child was on the ground between them, surrounded by the broken pieces of something that sparkled like ice. She was crying without sound, her little body shaking with grief. The three turned to look at him. The one, clearly the leader, tilted his head with amusement. "Look," he said to his companions. "A soft skin. What do you want, human? Are you lost?" Did not answer immediately. He looked at the child on the ground. He looked at the broken crystal scattered around her. He looked at the standing over her with satisfied smiles on their faces. Then he looked at the leader. "I saw what you did," said. His voice was calm and level. There was no anger in it, which somehow made it more unsettling than if he had been shouting. "You're going to apologize to her now. You're going to pay for what you broke, and then you're going to leave." For a moment there was silence. The sounds of the promenade continued around them, but in this small space everything had gone still. Then the laughed. It was a harsh sound, full of contempt and disbelief. The leader took a step toward, using his greater height to loom over the human. His move to either side, trying to flank. "Do you know who we are, soft skin?" the leader growled. "We are of the Dominion Coalition. Our fathers command warships. Our mothers sit on trade councils. And you," he leaned in close enough that could smell the meat on his breath. "You are nobody, a cargo hauler, a servant. You move boxes for a living." Did not step back. He did not blink. "I know what you are," he said quietly. "I'm not asking again. Apologize, pay, leave." The female barked a laugh. "Or what? What will you do, little human? There are 3 of us and 1 of you. We are bigger than you, stronger than you, faster than you. What could you possibly do?" It was a fair question. By every objective measure they were right. They were larger, stronger, faster. Their claws could tear through metal. Their jaws could crush bone. In a fight between an unarmed human, they would win. Everyone knew this. Everyone accepted it. Knew it too. He simply did not care. "Last chance," he said. The leader snarled. His pride would not allow him to back down, especially not in front of witnesses, especially not from a challenge by a species he considered inferior. He placed one clawed hand on his chest and shoved. It was not a gentle push. It was a shove meant to send the human stumbling backward, meant to humiliate him, meant to establish dominance. Did not move. His feet stayed planted on the metal floor. His body absorbed the force without shifting. He might as well have been bolted in place. The leader's yellow eyes widened. He pushed again, harder, nothing. "How?" he started to say. And then moved. What happened next was difficult for witnesses to describe later. It was too fast, too controlled, too unexpected. One moment the human was standing still. The next moment the leader of the was on the ground, his arm twisted behind his back at an angle that made even watching painful. The female lunged forward with a snarl, claws extended. Was no longer where she was attacking. He was beside her, then behind her, and then she was falling, tripped by her own momentum, crashing into a display of goods that scattered across the floor. The younger male hesitated. That hesitation cost him, closed the distance in 2 quick steps and did something with his hands that nobody quite saw. The young made a strange sound, like air escaping from a balloon, and collapsed. 18 seconds, that was how long it took. The promenade had gone completely silent. Everyone was staring. A trader had dropped his. The merchant's mouth was hanging open, all 4 of her arms frozen in mid-gesture. Stood in the middle of 3 fallen. He was not breathing hard. He was not even sweating. There was no triumph in his expression, no anger, no satisfaction. His face was as calm as it had been when he first stood up from his coffee. The leader groaned and tried to rise. Placed 1 foot on his back, not pressing hard, just enough to keep him down. "Stay," he said, like he was talking to a disobedient dog. The leader stayed. Had stopped crying. She was staring up at the human with her large, dark eyes, her antennae pressed flat against her head, her bioluminescence completely dark with shock. She had never seen anything like this. She had never imagined that anything like this was possible. The human looked down at her, and his expression softened just a little. "It's okay," he said. "They're not going to hurt you anymore." She did not know if she believed him, but she wanted to. She wanted to very badly. Turned his attention back to the leader, who was still on the ground, still trying to understand what had just happened to him. Now said, let's try this again. You're going to apologize, you're going to pay, and then you're going to leave. This time, nobody laughed. The merchant's name was. She had been trading in this sector for 40 years, and she had seen many things in that time. She had seen wars and plagues and the rise and fall of empires. She had seen species discover faster-than-light travel and species destroy themselves with their own weapons. She thought she understood how the galaxy worked. But she had never seen anything like what she had just witnessed. She turned to the trader standing beside her, a thin being named Consul who dealt in information and secrets. "What just happened?" she whispered. His long fingers trembled as he picked up his dropped. "I do not know. I have never seen a human fight before. I did not know they could fight." "But how?" Gestured at the scene before them, at the three on the ground and the single human standing over them. "They are one of the most physically powerful species in the sector. They are born fighters. And that human, he is not even large for his kind. How is this possible?" Was already searching scrolling through entries about humans. "Here," he said, "listen to this. Humans evolved on a world called Earth. It is a death world. Category 12. His eyes widened. Category 12 was almost unheard of. Most sentient species evolved on Category 4 or 5 worlds. Category 12 meant constant danger, extreme conditions, predators everywhere. Their world has a gravity nearly twice the galactic standard," continued reading. "They can survive temperature ranges that would kill most species. They can heal from wounds that would be fatal to us. They can run for hours without stopping. And their ancestors, they were something called persistence predators." "What does that mean?" Looked up from his already thin face had gone pale. "It means they hunted by chasing. Their prey would run faster than them, much faster, but the humans would follow. They would track their prey for hours, for days, never stopping, never giving up, until the prey was too exhausted to run anymore, until it simply lay down and waited to die." Felt a chill run through her body. "They do not stop." "They never stop," said. "It is in their blood. When a human decides to do something, they do it, no matter how long it takes, no matter what stands in their way." He looked back at the scene on the promenade. "I think those young made a very serious mistake." On the floor of the promenade, the leader was beginning to understand this as well. He had been in fights before, many fights. He had won most of them. He understood combat. He understood strength and speed and aggression. What he did not understand was what the human had done to him. The human had not fought like a. He had not used strength against strength, speed against speed. Instead, he had used his own power against them. He had moved in ways that made no sense, redirected attacks that should have landed, found weaknesses in defenses that should have had none. And he had done it all with the same calm expression on his face, like it was nothing, like they were nothing. The leader's arm was still twisted behind his back, held in place by one of the human's hands. It hurt. It hurt more than anything had ever hurt before. And he knew with absolute certainty that if the human wanted to, he could break that arm like a dry twig. "Do you understand now?" asked. His voice was still calm, still level. "Do you understand what you did wrong?" The leader tried to summon his pride, his anger. "You attacked us without cause. This is against station law. When the authorities hear of this, you will be imprisoned. You will be sent back to your pathetic little world in chains. You will." Increase the pressure on the arm just slightly. The leader's words turned into a whimper. "Wrong answer," said. "Let me help you understand. You hurt a child. You made her cry. You destroyed something precious to her, something that cannot be replaced. You did this for fun, because you were bored, because you could." He leaned down, bringing his face closer to this ear. "Where I come from, we have a name for people who do things like that. We call them bullies, and we have a very simple rule about bullies. We do not let them win. Ever." The female had managed to pull herself up from the scattered display goods. She was bruised and humiliated, but her pride still burned. "You cannot do this," she snarled. "You are just one human. There are thousands of on this station, millions in the coalition. If you harm us, they will come for you. They will come for all your kind." Looked at her. For the first time, something like emotion flickered in his eyes, but it was not fear. "Do you know why humans are everywhere in this galaxy?" he asked. "We have only been out here for less than 100 years. We have a tiny fleet, a handful of colonies, no real military power. And yet everywhere you go there are humans, working, trading, living. Do you know why?" The female did not answer. "It is because we do not give up," said. "It is because we do not back down. It is because when something threatens our people or the people we have decided to protect, we fight. Not because we are the strongest, not because we are the fastest, but because we do not know how to stop." He stood up, releasing the leader's arm but keeping his foot on this back. "Your coalition has warships. Your species has claws and fangs, and my people have something else. We have stubbornness. We have spite. We have the absolute refusal to let creatures like you win." He looked around at the watching crowd. Dozens of aliens from dozens of species, all staring at him with expressions of shock and awe and, yes, fear. "Tell your friends," said. "Tell your family, tell everyone you meet. Humans protect children, all children. It does not matter what species. It does not matter what world. If you hurt a child in front of a human, there will be consequences. Today, the consequences were small. Today, you only lost your pride." He removed his foot from the leader's back and stepped away. "Next time might be different." Was still on the ground, surrounded by the broken pieces of her music box, but she was no longer crying. She was looking up at the human with something new in her large, dark eyes. It was hope. The three pulled themselves to their feet slowly, like wounded animals. Their pride was gone. Their confidence was shattered. They moved carefully, keeping their eyes on the human who had defeated them so easily. Pointed at the ground in front of. "Apologize," he said, "now." The leader's jaw tightened. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to refuse, to fight back, to restore his honor. But his arm was still throbbing with pain. His were limping and groaning, and the human was watching him with those steady, patient eyes. Persistence predators had said, they never stop. The leader knelt down in front of the small child. It was the most humiliating thing he had ever done in his life. His voice came out rough and forced. "I apologize," he said. "For taking your possession, for breaking it, I apologize." The other two mumbled similar words, their eyes fixed on the floor. Did not respond. She just stared at them with those large, dark eyes, her antennae pressed flat against her head. She did not forgive them. She was not sure if she ever would, but she nodded just once. Knelt down beside her. His movements were gentle now, completely different from the controlled violence of moments before. He began to carefully pick up the scattered fragments of the music box, gathering them in his cupped hands. "Can you tell me about this?" he asked softly. "What was it?" His voice was small and broken. "It was a music box. My grandmother made it. She recorded her voice inside, a lullaby. She used to sing it to me when I was very small." "And your grandmother, where is she now?" "She died 3 cycles ago. The music box was all I had left of her voice." Fresh tears began to roll down his furry cheeks. "Now it is gone, gone forever." Looked at the fragments in his hands. Crystal mostly, some kind of recording matrix embedded inside. Delicate work clearly made by hand. Any would look at these pieces and see garbage. Broken, useless, fit only to be thrown away. But was not a... "On my world," he said, "we have an old tradition. It comes from a place called Japan, a nation on Earth. When something precious breaks, we do not throw it away. We repair it. We fill the cracks with gold or something that looks like gold. And when we are done, the thing that was broken becomes more beautiful than it was before." Santeni lifted slightly. "You can fix broken things." "We can try," smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, tired but kind. "I know someone on this station, a human engineer. She is very good with things that other people say cannot be fixed. I will ask her to look at this." He stood up and turned back to the who were still standing there, waiting to be dismissed like scolded children. "The repair will cost credits," said. "A lot of them take out your—" The leader hesitated. "What?" "Your take it out. You are going to transfer funds to cover the cost of the repair, and you are going to do it right now while I watch." The leader's yellow eyes flickered with defiance, but only for a moment. He reached into his vest and pulled out a sleek. "How much?" he growled. "Considered 2,000 credits." 2,000. That is robbery. That is more than the thing was worth when it was whole. Took a step closer to just one step, but it was enough. "The thing," he said quietly, "was priceless. It was a child's connection to her dead grandmother. It was irreplaceable. 2,000 credits is a bargain. You should be grateful I am not asking for more." The transfer completed within seconds. Nodded and stepped back. "Now leave, and remember what I said. Humans protect children." The three fled. There was no other word for it. They fled the promenade like prey running from a predator, pushing through the crowd of watching aliens without looking back. The sound of their clawed feet faded quickly into the distance. Silence fell over the promenade. Then, slowly, the normal sounds of station life began to return. The watching aliens began to move again, to talk, to go about their business. But many of them kept glancing at the human and the small child. They would remember this day. They would tell others about it. The story would spread. Knelt back down next to. He had wrapped the crystal fragments in a piece of cloth torn from his own sleeve. "I need to take these to my friend now," he said. "It might take a few days to repair. Is that okay?" Nodded. Then, very hesitantly, she reached out and touched his hand with her small, clawed fingers. "Why?" she asked. "Why what? Why did you help me? You do not know me. I am not your species. I am nobody. Why did you help?" Was quiet for a moment. It was a good question. He had asked himself the same thing once, a long time ago. Why did humans do things like this? Why did they risk themselves for strangers? Why did they care about people they had never met and would never meet again? "Because someone had to," he said finally, "and because I was here." Before he could say anything else, a new voice cut through the air, high and panicked and filled with fear. An adult was pushing through the crowd, their bioluminescence blazing with distress. They were taller than but still small compared to most species, with the same moth-like features and large, dark eyes. Their fur was a darker shade of lavender, and they moved with the desperate speed of a parent who has just learned their child is in danger. Merchant Singer had heard the commotion from their meeting room 3 levels away. They had heard whispers of a human, of a fight. They had feared the worst. They burst through the crowd and froze at the sight before them, their child sitting on the ground, a human kneeling beside her, broken crystals scattered across the floor. "What happened?" demanded, their voice trembling. "What did you do? Get away from my child." Santini shot up. "No, parent, no, he is good, he helped me." She jumped to her feet and ran too, wrapping her small arms around their legs. Her bioluminescence was flickering rapidly, a jumble of colors that spoke of fear and relief and hope all mixed together. "The took grandmother's music box," said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "They broke it. They were mean to me. But this human, he stopped them. He made them apologize. He is going to fix grandmother's song." Looked from their daughter to the human, confusion and fear still warring on their face. They had heard stories about humans, strange stories, frightening stories. Humans were everywhere in the galaxy, but nobody really understood them. Nobody knew what they wanted. Stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible and empty. He understood the parents' fear. He did not blame them for it. "Your daughter is telling the truth," he said. "I saw what happened. I stopped it. They have been dealt with and they have paid for the repairs. He held up the wrapped bundle of crystal fragments. I know someone who might be able to fix this, if you will trust me. Looked at the bundle. They looked at their daughter, who was staring up at the human with something like wonder in her eyes. They looked at the human himself, at his calm face and steady hands. "Why would you do this for us?" asked. "We are nothing to you, we have nothing to offer you." Shrugged, "You do not have to offer me anything. This is just what we do." Did not understand. They were not sure they would ever understand. But they nodded. "Then I will trust you," they said. "Please bring back my daughter's song." 1 week passed on Nexus Station 7. Life continued as it always did. Ships came and went. Trades were made. Aliens of 100 species went about their business under the glow of a distant gas giant. But something had changed. Something subtle. Something that could be felt in the air, in the whispered conversations, in the way people looked at humans when they passed by. The story of the cargo hauler and the had spread across the station within hours. By the next day, it had reached other stations. By the end of the week, it was traveling on merchant ships to distant worlds. A human had stood up for an alien child. A human had defeated 3 with his bare hands. A human had demanded justice for a broken music box. It was a strange story, a confusing story. Many who heard it did not believe it at first, but the merchant told everyone who would listen, and she had a reputation for truth. The information broker sold recordings from the station's security cameras, and the recordings showed everything. The story was true, and it meant something important. Did not know about any of this. He had been busy. His engineer friend, a woman named Sarah, had spent 5 days working on the music box. She was a genius with delicate machinery, and this was the most challenging project she had ever attempted. But she had done it. The crystal had been reassembled piece by piece. The cracks had been filled with a gold-colored resin that Sarah had synthesized herself. The recording matrix had been carefully repaired, each damaged node reconnected with painstaking precision. And now was walking to meet and her parent at the same food stall where this had all begun. He found them waiting at a small table, was sitting on a cushion to bring her up to the table's height, her small legs swinging back and forth with nervous energy. Sat beside her, their antennae moving in slow, anxious circles. When they saw approach, bioluminescence exploded with pink and gold light. She jumped off her cushion and ran toward him, stopping just short of actually touching him. "Is it fixed?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is grandmother's song fixed?" Smiled and knelt down to her level. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small bundle wrapped in soft cloth. "See for yourself," he said. Small hands trembled as she unwrapped the cloth, and then she saw it. The music box was not the same as it had been before. It was better. The cracks where the crystal had been broken were now filled with veins of gold, spreading across the surface like the roots of a tree or the paths of rivers seen from space. The gold caught the light and scattered it into patterns that danced and swirled. The music box looked like it had been broken and put back together by stars. Stared at it for a long moment. Then slowly she pressed the button on its base. The crystal glowed from within, and her grandmother's voice filled the air. The lullaby was perfect, clear and sweet, exactly as it had always been. A song about stars that watched over sleeping children, keeping them safe from the darkness between worlds. Bioluminescence went dark for a moment. Then it blazed brighter than had ever seen it, a beautiful display of lavender and pink and gold that seemed to light up the entire food stall. She pressed the music box to her chest and closed her eyes, tears streaming down her furry cheeks. But these were not tears of grief. These were tears of joy. Stood up and walked too. For a moment they did not speak. They did not have the words. In their culture, in their language, there was no phrase adequate to express what they were feeling. Finally, they reached out and placed their small hand over his much larger one. "Thank you," they said. "Thank you is not enough, but thank you." Shook his head. "You do not need to thank me. I am just glad it worked." "But I do not understand," said. "You owe us nothing. You risked yourself for my child. You spent your time and your friend's time to repair something precious to us. Why? What do you gain from this?" Considered the question. He looked out through the viewport of the food stall at the stars that burned in the darkness of space. So many worlds, so many species, so many stories happening right now, stories he would never know about. "When humans first left Earth," he said slowly, "we were scared. The galaxy was so big and we were so small. We had no friends out here, no allies. We were alone in ways we had never been alone before." He looked back at. "We spent a long time on our world fighting each other. Wars, cruelty, terrible things. We knew what it was like to be small and weak and helpless. We knew what it felt like when nobody came to help." Had stopped crying. She was listening now, the music box still clutched to her chest, her large eyes fixed on space. "When we finally made it out here to the stars, we made a choice. We decided that we would be different. We decided that when we saw someone in trouble, someone weak being hurt by someone strong, we would help. Not because we would get something for it, not because we owed them anything, but because we remembered what it was like to need help and have nobody come." He smiled a little sadly. "We decided to be the people we wished had been there for us." Was silent for a long time. Their bioluminescence shifted through colors that did not know how to read. Finally, they spoke. "The galaxy," they said quietly, "is better for your kind being in it." Shrugged. "We are trying. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. We hurt each other sometimes, even now, but we are trying." Walked forward and without warning wrapped her small arms around his leg. It was the only part of him she could reach. Her bioluminescence was warm gold, the color of gratitude, the color of trust. "When I grow up," she said, "I want to be like you. I want to help people. I want to protect children who cannot protect themselves." Felt something tighten in his chest. He knelt down and gently placed his hand on his head between her antennae. "Then you will," he said. "I believe in you." Far across the station, in a residential section reserved for Dominion Coalition species, 3 young sat in uncomfortable silence as their parents lectured them. The shame was immense, not just for being defeated by a single human, but for what they had done to earn that defeat. They were not a gentle species. They valued strength and dominance, but they had their own code, and that code did not include bullying children. The 3 young would carry this lesson for the rest of their lives. Some lessons can only be learned through pain. And in a food stall on the commercial promenade, a human cargo hauler sat drinking coffee while a small alien child showed him how her music box worked. Her parent watched from across the table, still trying to understand, still struggling to find words for what they were feeling. They were nobody important. Just a cargo hauler, a merchant, and a child. Just 3 small lives in a galaxy of trillions. But stories start somewhere. Legends begin with single moments, and sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can echo across the stars. In the weeks and months that followed, humans would find themselves treated a little differently on Nexus Station 7, with a little more respect, a little more trust, a little more warmth. Nobody could say exactly why. It was just a feeling, a sense that these strange, soft-skinned creatures from a death world called Earth were not what they appeared to be, that behind their ordinary faces and unremarkable bodies, there was something extraordinary, something worth believing in. And across the galaxy, in places we'd never know about, the story continued to spread. A human who stood up for a stranger, a human who protected a child, a human who fixed what others said could not be fixed. It was just one story among billions. But it was a good one.